Welcome to Games That Suck, where we explore and complete games that rank the bottom of the list of each console. We're going to be using Metacritic as our metric of which these games are truly bad. Starting at the last page and working our way forward, we're choosing to exclude sports titles since they're inherently bad, and essentially the same game throughout the years. Join me in this journey to see if these games are truly bad, or if they're just misunderstood. We're going to be starting at the bottom 50 PlayStation 2 games, then moving on to another console. The first game that we're going to be diving into is G.I. Joe: The Rise of the Cobra. With a whopping 2.0 rating on Metacritic, I'm sure we're in for a terrible time. It opens with a cutscene in a snow-covered area in what looks like a crashed ship that gets run over by some sort of tank, and we're introduced to Hawk, explaining the plot, telling us that Mars, a weapons manufacturer, has gone rogue and is playing for the bad guys, in this case, Cobra. A man named Dr. Burkhart is looking to defect from Mars in order to help the Joes.
After years of being forced against my will to design Mars weaponry at their ice pack base, I'm glad to finally be free to help.
We're introduced to our first villain, Baroness, who I assumed was the main baddie in this game. She somehow captures a Joe named Heavy Duty from her prison cell and is able to just teleport out with all of her cronies. The Joes find a Cobra patch on one of the fallen enemies and aren't even sure what it is.
The Viper had this on him. What do you think it is?
Then the main menu opens up and a few different options are there. There's the team roster, some options, the missions, the media, and battle files. The media and battle files are just trophy rooms for collectibles throughout the game, and the roster just holds the list of Joes you'll gather along the way. On to Mission 1. Your first mission takes place in the Arctic, and you only have two characters to choose from at this point, Duke and Scarlet. You get to pick two Joes for each mission, so not much of a choice here. Your mission? To save Heavy Duty. For a PS2 game, the graphics sure were lacking. The game looks like it's straight out of their first-gen console. It's very underwhelming. The controls are fairly simple, with an auto-lock system that locks onto damn near everything, but allows you to cycle between targets with the right stick, which can be very temperamental at times, and not do what you want it to. The camera is fixed to wherever you're moving, and can be very frustrating when you're trying to find certain objectives or just explore the map. Your X is a roll ability that also doubles as the duck and cover button. Circle is the Joe's special ability, which you can acquire by shooting things to fill your special meter. Square is your melee, which actually can be quite powerful and can allow you to charge and knock up people into the air and shoot them endlessly until they die. And triangle is your action button. There are many terminals through the game you'll need to interact and use this button, but it also doubles as your super suit ability activation, which can be annoying since it takes a while to build that ability up. Your gun has unlimited ammo and doesn't need to be reloaded, similar to like a Metal Slug game, and each Joe has a different weapon unique to their kit. As you make your way through the first level, you're greeted with a laser force field that you need to pass through. The only way to do that is to destroy the generators powering them, which is usually met with a bit of resistance, but you can take them out and you're ready to move on. Your first mini-boss you will come across is a tank that's fairly easy to defeat. All you have to do is dodge their missiles by moving in circles around it and never stop shooting. I'd like to mention here that you have a 3-part health bar that honestly feels like it doesn't matter at all. There are no consequences in dying in this game, except the fact that it plays a short dying animation that extends the time you're stuck playing this game. After that, you've saved Heavy Duty. There are collectibles in each level that improve your end of mission score. These award you a badge type currency called battle points that you can use to purchase other Joes that you find in the world. Some of these are hidden in boxes or hard to see places, which is why the camera angle is so darn annoying. Mission 2. Since you always have two people in your squad, you'll be able to freely swap between any of these two at the cost of the special meter. You swap, you lose it. As I mentioned earlier, each member has a different special ability, but also they have a unique gear that allows them to open up these specific blue doors in some levels that hide more of the collectibles that truly don't matter at all that much, unless you're a completionist. It's not necessary to unlock any other Joes except for the first one, Heavy Duty, because the game forces you to. But I'm glad it did, because he ended up being my favorite Joe with a crazy ability that just allows him to mow down enemies with his minigun in seconds. The second mission is similar to the first in that it's just a race to the end. But in this one, we're introduced to vehicles. A tank is dropped for us to use to destroy a few radio towers to lower the laser force field of a compound we need to break into. The vehicles are controlled with the left stick, similar to a Warthog in Halo, and has two weapons. One's controlled by you, and one's controlled by your partner. We're also introduced to power coils, which are lightning coil looking things that you have to shoot until they're stable. Usually there's 2 to 3 of them that you have to charge up. The caveat here is that there's a time limit that they stay active, and that you have to do it in that time limit, which isn't that hard because they stay active for a fairly long time, and once you're in the building, you're on to the next mission. Mission 3. We're still in the Arctic biome. We're now inside a building and have a new enemy, the landmine. They'll blow you up if you don't first. Same formula here as well. Shoot enemies, progress down the hall, but this time we enter a room and have to fight waves of enemies until a door opens for us. Then we can move on and get introduced to yet another enemy, the Red Ninja, aka Deadpool. There's nothing special except a little faster and they're melee. After going down another hallway, enter another wave like battle arena. Slay some dudes, take down a couple barriers, progress to the next hallway. As we make our way through here, we eventually hit a room where we meet what I thought was the main boss of this level, Storm Shadow. He's super easy since he's melee. You just shoot and run around and that's pretty much it. He isn't that difficult. After his defeat, you now have access to purchase Ripcord, who I didn't buy for a while until I thought I needed him to progress the next mission. Biome 2, Desert. Moving into the desert biome, the first mission is greeting us with a Hummer at the beginning of the mission, which is much faster than the tank we had in the Arctic, and it's super easy to flip. It also comes equipped with 2 guns. We need to go down the hill, destroy 6 ammo dumps in a small location, then the gate will open for us. After going through the gate, we continue to go through the hallway of the outside, which is just a ravine filled with enemies and turrets that we could just skip if we wanted to. We then make it to the cave base, where we are greeted with yet another enemy that looks like the Tickers from like Titanfall or Apex. Progressing through the cave, we fight our way through just like all the other levels. This time, I ran into one of those blue doors and thought it was the way that I had to go, so I went to the main lobby, bought Ripcord, and restarted the level, only to find out it's just another looting area. I'd thought I'd pressed the terminal button, but instead I had activated my super suit. That's the problem with a double use button. So we make our way out of the cave again into another vehicle, larger than the Humvee and smaller than the tank, destroy a couple fuel stations, and move on through the gate. As we progress through the level, we encounter a couple new enemies that get shot out of what's called a spawner. They look a bit like Robocops and have higher health pools and hit a bit harder, as well as a slicer that's a disc that flies toward you as well as slices you. We also face our first Harrier in this level. The fight is pretty basic. You shoot at it, it runs, then you fight a horde of enemies. Rinse and repeat a few times until it blows up. After that, you get a tank again for a bigger open area to clear. Hit more power coils to open the door, and as you're heading through the door, you get your first encounter with a satellite laser minigame, where we get a top-down view and a laser and 5 waves of enemies. Clear the enemies, then go through the open door. Another hallway, another open room with waves of enemies with a locked door behind it. Through that door, another large open room, more power coils, and a terminal you have to activate. Biome 3, Jungle. Just like all the other levels up to this point, we get a couple new enemies and a hallway-like map to run through. These new enemies are ninjas that disappear and jump out right next to you, which makes it a good level for melee. Yet another Harrier fight, another bunker we have to fight our way into, hitting power coils to open a door that leads to more hallways, more open rooms with a locked door that you have to fight enemies to toggle a couple terminals. You get the point. Except this level, you have to destroy some computers before you can use the terminals. More power coils, more generator destruction, more hallways, over and over. The last addition to the game the jungle brings are these large robots that have a backside weak spot that are kind of a pain to destroy unless you can get your AI partner to take aggro and you unleash your unique ability on it as heavy duty. Then, more enemies, more gates, more robots, more tanks, another locked door with waves of enemies. You get the point. After this, you get to run rampant with the tank again in a pretty straightforward level. Then you make it to the lab, where you find 4 generators that you have to destroy to open a door, which will take you to a cutscene with Dr. Burkhart. You know, the guy from the beginning. He's actually led you into a trap to Destro, who I assume is the man in charge. He looks pretty powerful. You engage in a battle sequence similar to the Harriers, where you gotta fight Destro until he gets you into an untargetable phase. You need to fight waves of enemies while he tries to rain down missiles on you about 4 or 5 times until you can defeat him. And that's it, right? You think that the game's over? No. At this point, I knew there was another level. Since there was another tab on the missions page and I hadn't got a credit roll, I realized the game had put me into the next biome without progressing me to the boss of each main environment. So I had to go back and complete a few more levels to complete each total biome. Baroness and Firefly. There are 2 other main bosses in the game, Baroness and Firefly. The boss battles were absolutely terrible and extremely easy. They usually start with the boss and a small horde of enemies, and as you chunk down the boss's health, they'll jump out of reach and become untargetable, while sending out waves of cronies to do their job. This sequence will happen about 4 or 5 times, which feels much longer than the standard 3. However, with Firefly, my co-op AI was shooting stray enemies that were out of bounds from the boss arena and were invincible, so I got stuck doing all the heavy lifting. Tundra. So now that we have access to this last level, and after defeating all the bosses from the different biomes, you have the Tundra, which is 3 short missions leading up to the final boss, Cobra Commander, which isn't a boss fight at all. You fight waves of increasingly bigger enemies until you can blow up all 4 generators in the room, with a small area in the middle to move around in. Once you do, a cutscene plays where Cobra Commander sets off some sort of self-destruct sequence and leaves the building. The final cutscene explains that we stopped Mars from their initial plan, but Cobra Commander managed to get away. Also, Baroness, Destro, and Firefly managed to get away somehow. So basically it was all for nothing. But you know what they say, knowing's half the battle. Now, the first couple hours of this game weren't inherently terrible, but it got really repetitive and very, very boring very quick. And with the game-led biome changes before the final boss of that area, leading you to think that you're playing the game properly, forcing you to backtrack, made the game feel very clunky and loosely put together. And the hallway after hallway after hallway of enemies with no substance or depth leads me to say, this game sucks.